I didn't lose my family the day I walked out of that vineyard. I lost them years before, the morning I came home from war and realized they'd stopped checking if I'd arrived. My name is Miriam Cross. I'm 37. 3 Saturdays ago, at my younger sister's ranch wedding outside Lockhart, a coordinator handed me a laminated tag on a lanyard. It read, "Ceremony access only." My mother touched my wrist, her nails sharp as accusation, and said, quiet enough that only I could hear, "No reception plate, Miriam." My daughter didn't get a tag at all. I'd spent 4 years saving $11,000 for that envelope. Every double shift, every birthday I worked through, every time I stood in a Target aisle talking myself out of new shoes. 4 years of a divorced ICU nurse rebuilding from smoke and debt. But here's what they didn't know. That $11,000 wasn't a gift. It was the only thing keeping their perfect day solvent. And I was about to take it back. Before I tell you what I did at that gift table, I need you to understand something about my grandfather's watch. It's brass, tarnished at the edges. The leather strap is soft from 60 years of sweat and soap and the motion of a man who never sat still. My grandmother gave it to me the night before the wedding. Inside the case, scratched in his own hand, "Stand when it counts." I didn't know what that meant yet. I wore it anyway. The town is Messia, Texas, population, 4,200. My grandfather built half the porches in this town. My father inherited the business. My mother married into the name the way some people join a church, completely, loudly, and with no tolerance for anything that threatens the membership. I'm the daughter they call when the plumbing floods. I'm the daughter they don't call when there's a party. In my family, I was the emergency contact. Never the guest list. I believed them. For 37 years, I believed that if I just gave enough time, money, silence, space, they would finally see me as something other than scaffolding. That was the mistake. Not the money. The belief. I worked nights at Messia General, ICU. Before that, I was an army medic, 2 rotations overseas, the kind of resume that makes people say, "Thank you for your service," while stepping backward, like trauma might be airborne. I came home in 2015 with a GI Bill, a rebuilt shoulder, and the ability to stay calm while someone flatlines on a ventilator. Turns out that last part is useful in more situations than I expected. My daughter's name is Willa. She's 7. She's the only good thing that came out of a marriage that ended the year I switched to permanent nights. Her father moved to Nevada, sends a card twice a year. That's the whole relationship. We live in a 2-bedroom duplex next to a car wash in South Messia, the kind of place where you hear the hoses at 6 a.m., and the vinyl siding rattles when the wind picks up. It's clean, organized. I keep it tight the way I kept my field kit, because when your world is small, you learn to keep it sharp. Here's the thing about being a Cross in Messia. People know your grandfather's work before they know your face. Cross Sons Carpentry, Est, 1961. The sign still hangs on the shop on Pecan Street, though the paint has faded to the color of old bone. My grandfather, Edwin Cross, built that business with a circular saw and a reputation. Church pulpits, courthouse banisters, mantles for half the ranch houses in the county. When he died in 2017, the whole town showed up, standing room only. My father, Leon, took over in the 90s. He's a decent carpenter, he's a terrible accountant. I didn't know how terrible until later. My mother wasn't born a Cross. She grew up 3 streets over in a house with peeling siding and a chain-link fence. When she married my father, she married the name, the pew at First Baptist, the booth at the country club Fish Fry. She became Mrs. Cross the way some people get sober, completely, aggressively, and with zero patience for anyone who threatens the program. Then there's Nana Edie, my grandmother, Edwin's widow. 84 years old with a spine like rebar and a tolerance for nonsense that wouldn't fill a thimble. She still lives in the original Cross house on Cypress Lane, still grows okra in the backyard, still drinks her coffee black at 5 a.m. She loved my grandfather the way people love oxygen, quietly, constantly, without needing to announce it. She's also the only person in my family who ever looked at me and said, "Performance is expensive, Miriam, substance is free." Your grandfather knew the difference. I should have listened to her sooner. The first time I understood my position in this family, I was 26. I'd just come back from my second deployment, 8 months in a forward surgical tent, stitching soldiers back together under lights that buzzed like hornets and smelled like diesel. When my transport landed at Fort Hood, I remember thinking, this is it, this is the part where they run toward you. My mother had promised, the whole family, she'd said. The terminal was full of parents, spouses, kids holding poster board signs with glitter and misspelled names. I scanned the crowd for 12 minutes. Then I called. No answer. I called my father. Voicemail. I stood there in my ACUs with my duffel at my feet, watching other families collide and weep and hold on like they'd been drowning. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "So sorry, hon, Natalie's cheer nationals ran late. We'll celebrate next weekend." They didn't. Nana Edie showed up 2 hours later. She'd been stuck behind a hay truck on Route 183, but she showed up. She took me to the diner on Main Street, ordered us chicken fried steak and didn't ask a single question about the war. She just sat there, solid and quiet, like a pier you could tie yourself to. At my parents' house, the hallway is a shrine. Natalie's cheer trophies, Natalie's sorority composite, Natalie at 16 in a homecoming crown, Natalie at 22, laughing on some influencer's yacht. There is not a single photograph of me in uniform. I asked my mother about it once. She said, "Military photos are so formal, Miriam, they don't match the aesthetic." The aesthetic. For a hallway with water stains on the ceiling. 6 months before the wedding, Natalie posted the announcement on Instagram. A reel, slow motion, her hand extended toward the camera, a 3-carat diamond catching the late Texas light. The caption, "I said yes to forever with my best friend, Carson Boss, you're stuck with me now." 18,000 likes. My mother called me 14 minutes after it went live, talking so fast her words tripped over each other. Carson Boss. If you don't know Messia, let me explain. The Voss family is what my mother wishes we were. Garrett Voss owns the Chevy dealership, the strip mall on Route 90, and a ranch with a gate made of custom ironwork. His wife, Diane, chairs the Messia Country Club Events Committee. Their son, Carson, sells commercial real estate out of a glass office downtown and drives a restored Land Cruiser worth more than my car, my couch, and my savings combined. What I didn't know then, what nobody was supposed to know, was that my father owed Garrett Voss money. A lot of money. The shop had been bleeding for years. Somewhere along the way, my father had taken a personal loan from Garrett to keep the doors open. That made this wedding more than a wedding. It made it a performance. A signal to the Voss family that said, the crosses are still here, still solid, still worth doing business with. And my mother had already started casting. "Miriam," she said on the phone that night, "I've been telling everyone you're handling the wedding fund." I didn't know what that meant yet. But I said yes. Because that's what I do. I say yes. And then I show up. And then I bleed. Il est 22 dollars. That's what I saved. It took me 4 years, starting the month my divorce was finalized. Every overtime shift at the ICU, every holiday I picked up because the pay was double time and because Willa was too young to know the difference between Christmas Eve and a Tuesday. I ate rice and eggs 4 nights a week. I drove a car with 198,000 miles on it. I didn't buy myself a single piece of clothing that wasn't from the clearance rack at Walmart. The money was supposed to be Willa's college fund. I carved a piece of it off because I actually believed, that a generous wedding gift would change the way my family saw me. I went to the bank on a Thursday afternoon and requested a cashier's check for $11,000. The teller, a kid barely old enough to vote, looked at me like I'd just handed him a live grenade. "That's a lot," he said. "It's for family," I said. And I meant it. I wrote a note to Natalie on plain stationery, nothing fancy. "Congratulations on your wedding, Willa and I are so proud of you. Build something beautiful. Love, Miriam." I tucked the check and the note into a cream envelope, wrote, "From Miriam and Willa," on the front in my own handwriting. Then I took a photo of everything, the check, the note, the envelope, and saved it to my phone. I don't know why I did that. Maybe the medic in me always documents before a procedure. Maybe some part of me already knew this gift wouldn't land the way I hoped. I wasn't buying their love. I was testing whether it was for sale. My mother called on a Wednesday evening, 3 weeks before the wedding. I was giving Willa a bath, rubber ducks, lavender soap, the kind of ordinary magic that makes you forget the world has edges. "Miriam, have you gotten the gift ready?" Her voice had that particular sweetness to it, the one she uses when she wants something but doesn't want to say please. "I have the check," I said. "Great, send it to me now and I'll fold it into the family gift. We'll put everyone's name on one card, it looks better." I watched Willa stack ducks on the edge of the tub. Something about the request felt off, not wrong, exactly, just tight, like a tourniquet applied 1 notch too far. "I'd rather give it in person at the wedding," I said. "Willa and I want to hand it to Natalie ourselves." Silence. The kind of silence my mother uses like a weapon, long enough that most people rush to fill it with an apology. I didn't. I just waited. "Fine," she said. The sweetness was gone. "Whatever you want, Miriam." She hung up. I dried my hands and stared at my phone. She wanted the money in her hands a week early, 3 weeks before the ceremony, and she couldn't wait. That should have told me something. It did tell me something. I just wasn't ready to hear it yet. I set the phone on the counter and went back to Willa. She held up a rubber duck. This one's you, Mama. It was the smallest one in the tub. Why's that one me? Because she's the one who keeps the others from sinking. 7 years old. Kids see everything. 2 months before the wedding, I found out I wasn't a bridesmaid. Natalie's bridal party was 6 influencer friends from Austin and 2 girls she'd met at a brand retreat in Sedona. 8 women who matched in height, hair, and Instagram aesthetic like a curated grid come to life. I wasn't surprised. You can't be surprised by something you already expected. But it stung anyway, the way a paper cut stings, small, quick, and sharper than it has any right to be. What kept me going was Willa. Natalie had promised her. Had looked my daughter in the eyes at Thanksgiving and said, "You're going to be my flower girl, Will, I'll get you the prettiest little dress." Willa had talked about it every day since. She drew pictures of herself in a white dress throwing petals. She practiced walking slowly down the hallway of our duplex, one careful foot in front of the other, while I hummed the wedding march. Am I doing it right, Mama? Perfect, baby, just like that. That promise, Natalie's casual, breezy, Instagrammable promise, was the only thread keeping me tethered to this wedding. I told myself, they didn't include me, Fine. I'm a grown woman, I can take it. But Willa? Willa was 7. Willa still believed people meant what they said. I held on to that flower girl promise like a rope bridge over a canyon. And I told myself it would hold. 1 week before the wedding, I got an email from the event coordinator at Brasada Ranch. Subject line, rehearsal dinner final guest list. I scrolled. 46 names. Natalie's bridesmaids, Carson's groomsmen, both sets of parents, the Voss extended family, 3 of Natalie's influencer friends who'd flown in early, Carson's college roommate, his college roommate's girlfriend, who'd apparently met Natalie once at a lake house. My name wasn't there. Neither was Willa's. I read the list twice. Then I called my mother. "Mom, we're not on the rehearsal dinner list." "Oh, Miriam," she sighed like I'd asked for something unreasonable, like I'd requested a private chef or a second cake. "The rehearsal dinner is for the wedding party and immediate family. The Vosses are hosting and they're very particular about numbers." "I'm not immediate family?" Silence, shorter this time, heavier. "You know what I mean." "No, I don't. The Vosses have never met Willa, and Diane has a very specific vision for the evening. We can't complicate things." Complicate? That's what my daughter was now. A complication. I pulled up the email again. Carson's college roommate's girlfriend was on the list, a woman who'd met the bride once at a lake house. And my 7-year-old daughter, the one who'd been promised a flower crown, was a complication. "Okay," I said, "I understand." I didn't understand anything. But I'd spent 37 years saying okay to this family, and the muscle memory was strong. If I wasn't immediate family, what was my $11,000? For days before the wedding, Natalie texted me. A wall of text with 3 heart emojis and a "don't hate me." She'd given the flower girl spot to Carson's niece. "It's just optics, Mia. Carson's mom wants all the kids in the ceremony to be Vosses. Don't make it a thing." I read the message 3 times. Then I set my phone down and walked into the hallway where Willa's flower girl dress hung on the bathroom door, pressed and perfect and waiting for a little girl who still believed promises meant something. I called my mother. "Did you know about this?" "About what?" "Willa, the flower girl." "Oh, for heaven's sake, Miriam." Her voice sharpened the way it always does when she's been caught and needs to redirect. "It's one role in one ceremony. You always make everything about you." There it was. The sentence she's been throwing at me since I was 17. You always make everything about you. As if asking for a seat at the table was narcissism. As if expecting my daughter to be treated like family was self-absorption. "This stopped being about me," I said, the second it touched my daughter. "Don't be dramatic, Willa won't even remember. She talks about it every day, Mom, she practices in the hallway." "Then unpractice her, it's not hard." My mother hung up. I stood in the hallway and looked at the white dress, the ribbon sash I'd stitched by hand, the small patent leather shoes lined up underneath. I wasn't going to unpractice my daughter. But I wasn't going to fight on the phone, either. The medic in me knows, you don't argue with a hemorrhage. You stop the bleeding or you walk away. Nana Edie called me that same evening. I could hear her kitchen in the background, the clink of her coffee mug, the low hum of a refrigerator that's been running since 1995. "I heard about the flower girl," she said. "No preamble. Nana doesn't do preamble." "How did you?" Diane Voss told her bridge partner, who told Myrna at the church, who told me over okra this morning. Small town, Miriam, walls are thin. She paused. Your mother did the same thing to me once, at your grandfather's funeral. I didn't know this story. She put me in the back row, told the funeral director I was extended family so the front pew would look less crowded for the photos, at my own husband's service. My chest tightened. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I didn't want you to see your mother like that before you were ready. Another pause. Miriam, I need to say something you won't want to hear. The shop is in worse shape than anyone's admitting. Your father owes Garrett Voss more than I've seen written down. This wedding isn't about Natalie, it's about your parents performing for the one family that holds their note. I stared at the wall. The pieces were starting to fit. The expensive ranch, the Voss-only ceremony, the urgent request for my money 3 weeks early. Your mother performs family, Nana said quietly. You and Edwin are family. She told me she'd be at the wedding. She told me to keep my eyes open. And then she said something I carried into every moment that followed. I've buried a husband and outlived a lie. I can stand next to you for 10 minutes if it comes to that. I need to stop here for a second. Up to this point, I still believed I was overreacting, that maybe I really did make everything about me, that maybe a cheer competition mattered more than a homecoming, and a flower girl swap was just logistics. If you've ever talked yourself out of your own gut feeling about your family, drop the word gut in the comments so I know I'm not the only one. Okay, back to it. Because the next thing I found changed everything. 3 days before the wedding, I sat at our kitchen table trying to decide whether I was brave or stupid. The envelope was propped against the salt shaker. Il est $20. Willa's future sliced open and handed to people who couldn't remember to save her a seat. Willa came out of her bedroom in pajamas holding a piece of construction paper. Mama, I made this for you. She set it on the table. A crayon drawing, 3 figures standing under a yellow sun. The tallest one had brown hair and scrubs, me. The smallest had pigtails, Willa. Next to them, a shorter figure with curly gray hair, Nana. And floating above them all, in blue crayon, a smiling man with wings. That's Grandpa Edwin, she said, pointing to the sky. He watches us from up there. I looked at the drawing. 3 people. That was her whole family. Not my parents, not Natalie, not the cross name or the country club or the hallway shrine of cheer trophies. Just the people who showed up. Just the ones who held her. I folded the drawing carefully and slipped it into my purse next to the envelope. I'm bringing it with me, I said. To the wedding? Everywhere. She climbed into my lap and pressed her face against my collarbone. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and the car wash next door. Mama, are we still going to the wedding? Yes, baby. Even though I'm not the flower girl anymore? Even though. She was quiet for a second. Okay, but I'm wearing my dress anyway. I held her tighter. She drew everyone who loved her. The page wasn't crowded. 2 days before the wedding, my phone buzzed with a group text notification. The thread was labeled Wedding Logistics, Do Not FWD. Carson had been trying to add the florist, a woman named Miriam at Wild Bloom Florals, and his phone's autofill pulled my contact instead. I know it was a mistake because the first message after my addition was from Natalie. Babe, that's my sister, not the florist. Followed by my mother. Remove her now. But I'd already seen it. I'd already read the whole thread. I sat on my bed with the phone in my hands and scrolled through weeks of messages. My mother, my father, Natalie, Carson. Planning in plain text. Brenda, 3 weeks ago. Miriam's 11K covers Brasada's final balance. Get it before Friday. Leon, replying. Garrett can't see us short, this has to look right. Natalie, 2 weeks ago. Can we just seat her in the back and skip the reception? Limited badge or whatever. Brenda. Already handled. She'll get a paper badge at check-in. No reception access. She won't make a scene. She never does. Carson. Works for me. Leon. Agreed. I read it twice, 3 times. My brain went into triage mode, the way it does when someone's on a ventilator and the vitals don't make sense. Except this time, the patient was me. They didn't forget to seat me. They budgeted me out and kept my money in. The $11,000 wasn't a gift in their eyes. It was the final installment on a performance designed to convince Garrett Voss that the Cross family was still solvent. And the paper badge? That was the price of admission for a woman they needed to pay the bill, but couldn't afford to have sitting at the table. I didn't screenshot anything. I didn't need to. I'd seen it. That was enough. I closed the group text. Then I sat very still for a long time. The medic in me wanted a plan. The daughter in me wanted to cry. The mother in me wanted to drive to my parents' house and ask them how they could type those words about their own granddaughter. I didn't do any of those things. I breathed. In through the nose, 4 counts. Out through the mouth, 6. The same breathing I taught scared privates before their first live fire exercise. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to record anything. I wasn't going to forward the thread or post it online or call a lawyer. I wasn't going to fight on their stage. I was going to tell the truth on it. Once. And leave. Their weapon was shame, a paper badge, a blocked door, a whispered instruction to stay quiet and be grateful. My weapon would be the truth, spoken calmly in front of the exact audience they were performing for. Then silence. Then walking away. That was it. No revenge speech, no dramatic confrontation. Just a fact, a boundary, and a pair of shoes walking toward the exit. I texted Nana. I found something. I'm still going Saturday. Will you be near the gift table? Her reply came in 2 minutes. I'll be there before the ice sculpture melts. I put my phone on the nightstand and lay in the dark. Through the wall, I could hear Willa breathing in her sleep, the soft, steady rhythm of someone who trusts the world to be there in the morning. I was going to protect that trust. Even if it meant losing everything else. The next morning, I called Brasada Ranch. Not to confirm my attendance. To confirm Willa's. Hi, I'm calling about the Crossvoss wedding. My daughter was listed as the flower girl. I just want to verify her spot in the processional. A pause, typing sounds. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm showing the flower girl role was reassigned 2 weeks ago to a Miss Harper Voss. My stomach clenched, but I kept my voice steady, triage voice. I see. Could you also tell me about the reception logistics for my daughter and me? I want to make sure her dietary needs are noted. More typing. Then the woman, Lucia, according to her voicemail greeting, cleared her throat. Ma'am, I shouldn't say this, but I don't see your name on the reception guest list at all. You're listed under a separate category, limited access, ceremony only. She paused. And I should mention, the Cross account has an outstanding final balance that was due last Friday. We're still waiting on a deposit to clear. There it was. The last piece. My 11,000 was the deposit they hadn't sent yet, because they were waiting for me to hand it over at the wedding, where I'd be too polite to ask questions, too grateful to make demands, too invisible to be seen taking it back. Ma'am, are you still there? I'm here, I said. Thank you, Lucia, you've been very helpful. I assumed you'd want to know, she said softly. Most people would. I hung up and stared at the kitchen wall. The refrigerator hummed, the clock ticked. And somewhere in the back of my mind, the medic stopped triaging and started prepping the ore. That afternoon, Nana Edie drove over. She didn't call first, she just showed up the way she always does, with a casserole dish and a look on her face that said she already knew more than she was letting on. We sat at my kitchen table while Willa watched cartoons in the other room. I told Nana everything. The group text, Lucia, the final balance, the paper badge. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached into her purse and pulled out something wrapped in a blue handkerchief. This was Edwin's, she said, unfolding the cloth. A wristwatch. Brass case, slightly tarnished, with a leather band worn soft from decades of use. The face was plain, no diamonds, no fancy brand, just numbers and 2 hands that still kept perfect time. He wore it every day for 41 years, Nana said. Every morning he'd strap it on, kiss me goodbye, and walk to the shop, never late, never showy, just steady. She turned it over. On the inside of the case, scratched in Edwin's own handwriting, were 3 words. Stand when it counts. He wrote that the day he opened the shop, Nana said it was the only business advice he'd ever need. She pushed it across the table. Wear it Saturday, Edwin would have wanted you standing up. I strapped the watch to my wrist. It was heavier than I expected, the brass was warm, like it had been waiting for someone's skin. Nana, are you sure about this? I've had it in a drawer for 8 years, she covered my hand with hers. It needs to be on a wrist that does things, not in a box collecting dust. I wore it to bed that night. I could feel Edwin's heartbeat in the ticking. Saturday morning, June 9th. Hill country heat already building by 7 a.m., the kind that settles on your skin like warm gauze and doesn't lift until the stars come out. I showered, dressed, a navy cotton dress, simple cut, the kind of thing you wear when you want to look put together, but not memorable. Flat shoes, because I knew I might need to walk fast. I did Willa's hair in 2 braids and helped her into the white dress, the one she'd picked for the flower girl role she'd never get to play. She twirled in front of the bathroom mirror. Do I look like a wedding girl, Mama? You look like the best girl at any wedding. I slid my grandfather's watch onto my wrist, tucked the envelope into my purse next to Willa's crayon drawing and my phone. Everything I needed for the day fit in one bag. That felt right, somehow, clean, portable, like a field kit. On the drive out to Brasada, the road wound through limestone cuts and live oak canopies, and the air smelled like cedar and dry grass. Willa sang along to the radio, some pop song she'd learned from a friend at school, her feet kicking the back of my seat in time. I watched her in the rearview mirror and made myself a promise. Whatever happened today, she would not see me break. She would see me stand up. I'd triaged car wrecks calmer than I felt, chest traumas, arterial bleeds, once, a kid who came in with a pencil through his hand and didn't cry until his mom showed up. I understood that kid now. You hold it together until the safe person arrives. Nana was my safe person. And she was already at the ranch, waiting. Brasada Ranch looked like the cover of a magazine nobody in my family could afford to subscribe to. A long crushed limestone drive lined with live oaks strung with Edison lights, still unlit in the morning sun. The main house was native stone and dark timber, surrounded by terraces that stepped down toward a pecan grove where white chairs were arranged in perfect rows. A valet in a starched shirt was parking vehicles. Carson's vintage Land Cruiser was already in the front row, gleaming like a showroom piece. Next to it, Garrett Voss's black Suburban. Behind that, a line of trucks and SUVs that probably cost more than my apartment deposit, my student loans, and my divorce attorney combined. It's pretty, Mama, Willa said, pressing her face against the car window. It is, baby. At the check-in table, two young women in matching linen dresses stood behind a white tablecloth covered in gold foil badges arranged alphabetically. Each badge was thick cardstock, calligraphed, with a gold ribbon loop. A man in front of me, one of Carson's fraternity brothers by the sound of it, received his badge with a handshake and of welcome. Mr. Davies, full access, enjoy the day. I stepped up. Miriam Cross. The woman scanned her list, her smile tightened. She reached below the table, not into the box of gold badges, but into a separate folder, and produced a laminated tag on a lanyard. On it, in the same font as the dinner menu propped beside the flower arrangement, were 3 words. Ceremony access only. My name was handwritten in black ink beneath it. I stared at it. The laminate was warm from being under the table. Cheap and deliberate. I was still holding the badge when my mother appeared. She was wearing a champagne-colored dress with beaded sleeves, something you'd see at an awards ceremony, not a ranch in June. Her hair was freshly colored, her nails were done. She looked like a woman who'd spent a great deal of money to look like she hadn't spent any. Miriam, darling, come here. She took my elbow and steered me 3 steps to the left, behind a trellis covered in grapevine. The same move she always made, pull the problem out of frame, fix it off stage. That badge, she said, lowering her voice to a whisper that smelled like champagne and hairspray, means no plate, Miriam. I looked at her. No plate? The reception is seated, the Vosses are paying for the dinner and they have a head count. You can attend the ceremony, sit in the back, please, but there's no room for you or Willa at the reception. Diane has this very specific. Mom. My voice was flat, steady. Did Willa get a badge? My mother blinked. Willa doesn't need one, children don't attend the. She was told she'd be the flower girl. That changed. No one told her it changed. Miriam, for God's sake, don't make a scene, the Vosses are watching. I looked down at the laminated badge, printed in the same font as the menu. Designed, planned. This wasn't a last-minute adjustment. This was architecture. Go sit down, my mother said, enjoy the ceremony, leave your gift on the table, and then quietly go home. She patted my arm and walked away, heels clicking on limestone. That means no plate. Willa tugged my hand. Mama, why is our card different? She was looking at the laminated badge. Around us, other guests streamed past with their gold badges gleaming like small shields, laughing and greeting each other and moving toward the pecan grove with the certainty of people who belonged. It's just a different kind, baby. But there's our gold. I knelt down, eye level. Her face was so open, so trusting, that it hurt worse than anything my mother had ever said. Listen to me, Willa, we're going to sit in the back for the ceremony, we're going to be very quiet and very brave, and then we're going to do something, and after that, we're going to leave, okay? What are we going to do? Something important. She nodded. She trusted me the way she trusted gravity, completely, without evidence, because it had never let her down. We walked to the ceremony area. White chairs in rows of 12, each one draped with ivory organza. The front 3 rows were marked reserved, family in gold tent cards. I didn't sit there. I sat in the very last row. Near the edge where the folding chairs were plain metal and the view was partially blocked by a speaker stand. Willa sat next to me, her white dress bright against the metal chair, her patent leather shoes not quite reaching the ground. The ceremony was beautiful, I'll say that. The pecan grove, the string quartet, the light through the branches. Natalie looked like she'd been art directed by a team of professionals, which, of course, she had. Carson cried during his vows. My mother cried during everything. My father stood at the edge of the family row and did not look in my direction once. Not once. After the ceremony, the photographer gathered the families. Vosses on the left, crosses on the right. Diane Voss repositioned her turquoise and diamond necklace for the camera. My mother adjusted her beaded sleeves. Leon stood at the end of the row, hands in his pockets, eyes aimed somewhere past the live oaks. The photographer counted heads. That everyone? That's everyone, my mother said. Willa looked up at me. Mama, aren't we supposed to be in the picture? Not today, baby. She pulled the crayon drawing out of my purse, she'd been reaching for it all ceremony, and held it against her chest like a shield. The paper crinkled. The yellow sun she'd drawn looked up at the real one. I caught my father's eye for exactly 2 seconds. He was standing at the end of the family line, and for a moment, one moment, something moved across his face. Shame, maybe, or regret. He took a half step toward us. His mouth opened. And then my mother's hand found his elbow, the same way she'd found mine. And she pulled him back into position. He didn't resist. He turned away. And the photographer's flash went off. And the Cross family smiled for a picture that didn't include the daughter who'd saved them $11,000, or the granddaughter who'd been promised a flower crown. Leon chose the frame. He always chose the frame. Nana Edie was standing by the trellis near the stone path. She hadn't been in the photo, either. I noticed that. She'd refused. She caught my eye and tilted her head slightly toward the east side of the tent, where the gift table sat under a canopy of Edison lights. I nodded. Willa held her drawing. I touched the brass watch on my wrist. It was time. Guests flowed toward the reception tent like a current. Champagne flutes appearing in hands, laughter rising, the string quartet transitioning to something jazzy and light. The tent was spectacular, crystal chandeliers, tables draped in ivory linen, centerpieces of white ranunculus and trailing greenery, monogrammed cocktail napkins stacked in silver holders, CN. I walked toward the entrance with Willa's hand in mine. A young man in a vest stepped forward. Ma'am, may I see your badge? I held up the laminated tag. His expression flickered, sympathy, embarrassment, practiced neutrality, all in the space of one breath. I'm sorry, ma'am, this badge is ceremony only, the reception requires a gold badge. I'm the bride's sister. I understand, but I have strict instructions. Over his shoulder, I could see the head table. My mother was already seated, laughing with Diane Voss, performing warmth and wealth and family like she'd rehearsed it in a mirror. My father was 2 chairs down, studying his champagne. Natalie was holding Carson's hand and posing for someone's phone. The Voss crowd filled every table, the auto dealer, the ranch foreman, the country club board. Every person my parents needed to believe the crosses were still on solid ground. And there, 6 feet to my right, just outside the tent entrance, the gift table. A white linen display under Edison lights, loaded with wrapped boxes and thick envelopes. One of those envelopes said, "From Miriam and Willa," in my handwriting. I could see the edge of it from where I stood. The one thing they let me near was the table holding my own money. I looked down at Willa. She looked up at me. Mama, is it time for the important thing? Almost, baby. Standing outside that tent, holding a laminated badge while my daughter asked if we were family. That was the moment I stopped hoping. Hoping they'd change, hoping they'd see us, hoping that $11,000 and 37 years of showing up could buy what should have been free. If you're still with me, do something for me. Subscribe. So the next person who needs this story can find it, too. Now watch what I did with that envelope. Because they never saw it coming. I looked at the laminated badge one more time, really looked at it. The font was identical to the dinner menu on the reception tables, the same typeface, the same paperweight. This wasn't a workaround. It was a design choice. Someone, my mother, probably, with Natalie's approval, had sat down with the wedding stationer and specifically created a second-class badge. They'd printed it, cut it, laminated it, written my name on it in ink. They'd put thought into my exclusion. They'd formatted it. I glanced toward the gift table. My envelope was near the left edge, partially covered by a large box wrapped in silver paper. From Miriam and Willa. For years of overtime, For years of rice and eggs and clearance racks. For years of believing that the size of my sacrifice could offset the size of my invisibility. Inside that envelope was the Brasada Ranch final balance, the foundation of this whole performance. Take back one envelope and the whole performance loses its floor. Nana was standing 10 feet away near a trellis wrapped in white jasmine. She wore a simple gray dress and flat shoes and not a single piece of jewelry. She looked at me the way she always did, steady, certain, the way a compass looks at north. I touched the brass watch on my wrist. Felt the scratched words against my skin. Stand when it counts. Willa was holding my other hand, her crayon drawing was folded in my purse. The yellow sun, the 3 figures, the people who love her. Everyone else was inside the tent, performing. Mama? Yes, baby. I'm ready. I squeezed her hand. I was ready, too. I walked to the gift table. No rush, no dramatic stride. Just the calm, measured pace of someone who knows exactly what she's doing. The same walk I use crossing an ICU when someone's crashing and panic won't help. Willa stayed close, her small hand warm in mine. I reached the table, white linen, white flowers, stacked boxes and envelopes from people who'd been invited to eat, to drink, to celebrate. I found my envelope immediately. From Miriam and Willa. The ink was slightly smudged at the corner where someone had moved it aside to make room for a larger box. Someone had handled it, someone had read the name. And they'd still decided we didn't belong at the table. I slid the envelope out and tucked it into my purse. Smooth, clean. Like pulling in 4, you just commit to the motion and don't hesitate. A woman nearby, one of the Voss cousins by the look of her, glanced over. Excuse me, are you taking something from the gift table? I looked at her, calm, professional. I'm retrieving my own gift. Your own? The check inside this envelope is mine. It hasn't been opened, it hasn't been deposited, and the people it was meant for decided I don't deserve a plate at their table. I said it clearly, without raising my voice. The woman's eyebrows went up. 2 other guests turned their heads. And then, from behind me, the sound of heels on limestone, fast, clicking. The rhythm of a woman who's lost control of a situation and hasn't realized it yet. Miriam. My mother's voice, high and tight. What are you doing? I turned around. My mother was standing 5 feet away, her champagne-colored dress catching the Edison lights. Her face arranged in that particular expression I've known my whole life, the one that says, "Fix this immediately or I will make you regret it." Behind her, guests were beginning to notice, heads turning, conversations trailing off. The string quartet played on, but the human music, the laughter, the chatter, had started to thin. I'm taking back my envelope, I said. You're making a scene. No, I'm making a decision. I touched the watch on my wrist, felt the brass against my skin. Stand when it counts. Put it back, Miriam, people are looking. Good. The word came out quiet, not angry, not triumphant, just finished, like the last note of a song that's been playing too long. My mother stepped closer. I swear to God, if you embarrass this family in front of the Vosses? I tilted my head. The family Dad owes money to? The ones you're staging this entire wedding to impress? Her face went white, not pink, not red, white. The color of someone who's just heard a secret spoken aloud for the first time. How did you? It doesn't matter how I know. Leon appeared at the edge of the tent opening. He looked like a man watching his house burn from across the street, present, but paralyzed, close, but useless. Natalie was behind him, her hand on Carson's arm, her veil slightly askew, her face cycling through confusion and fury like a slot machine trying to land. And beyond them, the whole room. The country club set, the Voss family, Diane in her turquoise, Garrett with his silver hair and his quiet authority. Every single person my parents had built this day to deceive. I spoke to the room, not to my mother, not to Natalie, to the room. My name is Miriam Cross, I'm the bride's older sister, I'm an ICU nurse, I'm a veteran, and I'm standing here because today, at this wedding, I was given a laminated badge that said ceremony access only. It means I can watch the ceremony, but I can't eat, I can't sit, I can't be seen inside that tent. I paused. The silence was thick as hill country humidity. My daughter Willa was promised the flower girl role. That was taken away so the ceremony could be all Voss. She's 7, she practiced walking in our hallway for 2 months. Willa was standing beside me, holding my hand, and I felt her grip tighten, but she didn't cry. She's tougher than I am. I saved $11,000 over 4 years for this gift, every overtime shift, every skipped vacation. I held up the envelope. But here's what I found out. This money was earmarked for the venue's final balance, a balance my parents couldn't cover. They needed my 11,000 to keep this day looking like they could afford it. I let the sentence sit. Across the tent, Garrett Voss set down his champagne glass. Diane's hand went to her necklace. The country club women exchanged glances, the kind of glance that rewrites a reputation in real time. They wanted my money, I said. They just didn't want me. I placed the envelope back in my purse, closed the clasp. I think they won't need this anymore. My mother's mouth opened, no sound came out. Behind her, the Edison lights swayed in a breeze that smelled like cedar and the end of a very long lie. The silence lasted 4 seconds. Then my mother exploded. You ungrateful, after everything we've done for you, you always make everything about you. The same line she'd thrown at me 100 times. But this time, it landed in a room full of people who'd just watched her exclude her own daughter from the wedding. This time, it didn't cut me. It cut her. The Voss cousin who'd seen me at the table spoke first. She's your daughter? And she wasn't invited to eat? My mother pivoted, tears welling now, the kind I'd seen 1,000 times, manufactured and precise, deployed like smoke grenades. You don't understand, it was logistics, the Voss's head count, Diane, you know how these things. Diane Voss didn't move. Don't put this on my head count, Brenda. The name landed like a gavel. Lucia appeared near the tent entrance, clipboard, headset, professional. A guest turned to her. Is the venue balance really unpaid? Lucia glanced at me, at my mother, then she said carefully. I'm not at liberty to discuss client accounts publicly, but I can confirm the final settlement has not been received. The murmuring spread like wind through the pecan grove. Leon stood frozen. He didn't defend my mother, he didn't step forward, he didn't look at me. The near sympathy moment I might have given him evaporated in his silence. And Natalie? Natalie turned to me with tears streaming down her face. Do you know what this costs me? My brand, my sponsors? I looked at her. Less than it cost her. I pointed at Willa. Natalie's mouth closed. The string quartet had stopped playing. The only sounds were the Edison lights humming and the distant call of a mockingbird in the live oaks. Then Nana Edie stepped forward. She'd been standing near the jasmine trellis the whole time, quiet, steady, watching the way she always watches. A woman who'd buried her husband and outlived a lie and didn't need to raise her voice to fill a room. She walked to the edge of the crowd. 84 years old, flat shoes on limestone, no jewelry except a thin gold band she'd worn since 1960. And the room gave her space the way rooms do for people who've earned it, not with money or volume, but with time and character. My name is Edie Cross, she said. I am Edwin Cross's widow. For 60 years the Cross name meant something in this town, not because we were rich, because we were honest. She looked at my mother. My son built a name on honest work. Today I watched his wife spend it on a badge. The words landed like stones dropped into still water. Brenda made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob, and reached for Leon's arm, but he didn't respond. He was staring at his mother with the expression of a man who'd just been identified in a lineup. Nana turned to me. Let's go, Miriam. I took Willa's hand. We walked. Behind us I heard Natalie's voice crack. Grandma, please. And Nana, without turning around. I'll be at home, Natalie, when you're ready to visit without a camera crew. We walked down the limestone path, through the Edison lights and the live oaks, past the valet station where Carson's vintage Land Cruiser gleamed in the afternoon sun. Willa's white dress caught the light, her braids bounced with each step. She didn't look back. She held my hand and walked like she'd practiced, one steady foot in front of the other. We were halfway down the drive when I heard them. Come back. My mother's voice, raw, stripped of its usual architecture. Miriam, come back. My father's voice, a beat behind like an echo. Meredith, Miriam, please. He couldn't even get my name right on the first try. I stopped, turned. They were at the top of the path. My mother in her beaded champagne dress, my father with his hands limp at his sides, Natalie behind them with her veil streaming, Carson awkwardly a few steps back. Behind them, the tent, behind the tent, 120 people who now knew the truth. Miriam, you can't do this to us, my mother shouted. The desperation in her voice was real this time, not performed, real. I didn't do this to you, I said. My voice carried in the still air. You did this to yourselves, I just stopped paying for it. I reached into my purse and pulled out the laminated badge. Ceremony access only. I walked back 3 steps to the gift table, still uncovered, still gleaming with other people's generosity, and set the badge down right where my envelope had been. Laminate on linen, gray on white. The smallest, quietest protest I could think of. Mama, Willa whispered, can we go now? Yes, baby, we can go. I looked at my family one last time. I'll always answer if you call us family. I'm done answering as the fund. Then we turned and walked to the car. Willa climbed into her booster seat. I buckled her in, started the engine. The rearview mirror showed the ranch shrinking, the live oaks, the Edison lights, the stone house, and 3 figures standing in the drive watching us leave. I didn't wave. I just drove. On Monday, I went to the bank and voided the cashier's check. The teller processed it without comment. $11,000 returned to my account. Willa's college fund restored. That same afternoon, Lucia called, professional, apologetic. I wanted to let you know the Cross account remains unsettled. We've issued a formal invoice to your parents. I thought you should know in case anyone contacts you. No one contacted me. Or rather, everyone contacted me, but not about the invoice. My phone lit up for 3 days straight. My mother left voicemails I didn't listen to. Natalie sent a text that said, "You ruined the best day of my life." Followed 12 hours later by one that said, "Carson's mom won't return my calls." My father sent nothing. In Messia, the news traveled the way it always does in small towns, through church pews and grocery aisles and the country club parking lot. Within a week, Diane Voss had quietly withdrawn from the joint social committee she co-chaired with my mother. Garrett Voss didn't renew the private note he'd been carrying for Leon's shop when it came due for review. Nobody said it was because of the wedding. Nobody had to. Nana Edie moved her okra garden to the community plot near my duplex so she could visit Willa after school. She came 3 times a week. She taught Willa to deadhead marigolds and identify cardinals by their song. She never once mentioned my parents unless I brought them up first. I still wore Edwin's watch. I wore it to work, to the grocery store, to parent-teacher night at Willa's school. The brass was warming to my skin, the leather was softening, the ticking was steady. Everything I needed from a cross, I got from a dead man's wristwatch and his 84-year-old widow. 3 weeks after the wedding, I sent one message, an email, to my mother, my father, and Natalie. I'm not angry. Anger takes energy I'd rather spend on my daughter. I'm not asking for an apology, because an apology you have to ask for isn't worth receiving. If any of you want a relationship with me, a real one, built on respect and not on what I can fund, you know where I live. Until then, I wish you well. Ichichidi Nana. My mother replied within the hour. This is so unfair to your sister. Natalie didn't reply. My father didn't reply. I set my phone on the kitchen counter and went to find Willa. She was sitting at the table with her crayons, working on a new drawing. What are you making, baby? She held it up. A house, our duplex, with the car wash sign visible next door. 2 figures in front, a tall one with brown hair and a small one with pigtails. Behind them, Nana with her okra. And next to the house, a new figure, a woman with dark hair holding a clipboard. That's Lucia, Willa said. She was nice to us. 4 figures now. A small family drawn in crayon on cheap construction paper. But every single person on that page had earned their spot. I pinned the drawing to the refrigerator with a magnet shaped like Texas. A locked door isn't hate. It's a door that finally has a key, mine. Love that only shows up when you're useful isn't love, it's an invoice. And you are allowed to stop paying it, especially for the little ones still learning what family is supposed to feel like. That's my story. A paper badge, a check I took back, and a 7-year-old who finally drew herself into the picture. If this reminded you that walking away can be the most loving thing you do for yourself, for your kids, for the version of you that's been holding it all together alone, take it as your sign. Share this with someone who needs it. Drop a comment, hit subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.